So today we're going to talk about Plan B. Most of us have heard about Plan B. It's a very effective method of emergency contraception. So I thought to myself, let's talk about it, learn about it, and see what it is and how it actually works. So let's get into it. Before we start our discussion, let's go through contraceptives in general. So we have IUDs. There's, I believe, copper IUDs, and then there are the levonorgestrel IUDs. These are intrauterine devices placed into the uterus. Now these are, let's zoom in here, T-shaped devices inserted into the uterus, and these specifically release something called levonorgestrel. This is the active ingredient in Plan B. This is a synthetic hormone that stops pregnancy from happening, and that's what we'll talk about in this video. Then we have the hormonal contraceptives like the implants, the birth control pills, which are popular, injections, patches, contraceptive rings. These are all different options. Every woman prefers a different thing, depending on side effects and all sorts of things. I'll do a video on these at some point because there's a lot to talk about. Then we have the barrier method of contraception, male and female condoms, spermicide, diaphragms, there's all kinds of options. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the emergency contraceptive Plan B. So let's get into that. So what is Plan B? Well, it is emergency contraceptive. It's something that needs to be used in an emergency in case of a failure of a condom, when a condom isn't used. And I don't need to mention it, but you are increased risk of STDs, STIs if you don't use a condom, but it's your life. It is what it is. No judgment. Missed birth control can be a reason for Plan B being used, and your partner did not pull out in time. Everyone's reason for using Plan B is different. One thing I wanted to mention is that there shouldn't be any shame of taking Plan B. I know because of people's beliefs and things like that, this can be a weird thing, but it's good that we have something that someone can take to prevent pregnancy. Because life happens, things happen, and this happens to be a very effective method to prevent something that you don't want. We briefly talked about levonorgestrel. This is the main component in Plan B. It should be taken as soon as possible. The faster, the better. It is a synthetic progestogen or a progestogen, which is a synthetic hormone. It is 89% effective within 72 hours of unprotected sex. And we're going to talk about why that time window is very important. Let's briefly talk about how it actually works. So we have this molecule. We talked about it being a progestogen, a synthetic hormone. It is a synthetic version of progesterone. So let's go over to progesterone. Now this is a very important hormone. Hormones in general are incredibly important to the functioning of the human body, but especially in the pregnancy process and in pregnancy in general, and with general women's health. So progesterone supports menstruation. It also helps maintain the early stages of pregnancy. It thickens the lining of the uterus, which allows the egg to implant itself and grow. Let's go back over here to levonorgestrel. This delays ovulation, right? Ovulation being the process when the ovaries release the egg. So it delays this process, so it stops the pregnancy process from moving forward naturally as it normally would. So you won't have a sperm fertilizing an egg because there's no egg. It also suppresses the luteinizing hormone surge. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but this type of hormone, when it surges and increases in the body, fertility is very high. So as you can see, in order to prevent pregnancy, you have to play around with the way the hormones function. That's really the only way. Like I said, hormones play an incredibly important role in this whole process. Let's talk about adverse effects and effectiveness. So the side effects can be nausea, abdominal pain, changes in the menstrual cycle, specifically heavy bleeding. It's not major menstrual cycle changes, but within the cycle, there's heavy bleeding. There can be heavy bleeding. Breast tenderness, headache. I think there's a few others. These are usually mild and go away. Now, I think everyone's situation is different. Biology is incredibly varied. So some people may respond well, some may not respond well, but it seems to be very well tolerated. I mentioned it's highly effective within 72 hours of unprotected sex. This window is important because Plan B only delays ovulation for a certain amount of time. Again, because it's used in emergencies. And this is most effective before ovulation. If ovulation has already occurred, you're not going to stop the egg from doing its thing. And I mentioned it is well tolerated and safe. One thing I did want to mention is if you get Plan B ahead of time at a pharmacy, you can use GoodRx to save a lot of money. Plan B is very expensive. Unfortunately, I don't know who makes it, but you know how the pharmaceutical company is. They just decided, let's make it incredibly expensive because we know people are going to use it. It's very unfortunate, but GoodRx can help you save money on any drug pretty much, especially something like Plan B. So let's go through the summary and review what we learned. We started out talking about contraceptives in general, IUDs, the hormonal contraceptives like the pill, the patch, barrier method like the male condom and female condom. We then learned about Plan B as an emergency contraceptive. It's often used in the event that a condom's not used. It contains this molecule levonorgestrel that should be taken as soon as possible. It's a synthetic hormone. It is very effective within 72 hours of unprotected sex. This hormone works by delaying ovulation, the ovary releasing an egg, which doesn't allow for sperm to fertilize an egg because the egg isn't there. It mimics this hormone that actually maintains the early stages of pregnancy. Then we spoke about the side effects can be nausea, heavy bleeding, headache. They're usually mild and go away in time. And that window of effectiveness is important because of how long it delays ovulation. And then we also mentioned GoodRx being a very useful way to get this drug a lot cheaper. So that's all I got. I definitely learned a lot. I've been aware of Plan B. I know that a lot of women take it for various reasons. I did want to mention that outside of unprotected sex and things like that, I think it's very, very important that we have this for cases of sexual abuse. For me, when I was reading up on this, I realized that and I was like, wow, I'm really grateful that we have this drug because this can prevent all sorts of unwanted complications from a very, very traumatizing experience. I hope those of you who take it learned a little bit more, which is my whole goal with this channel. So thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends, and I'll be back soon with another video.